actually loaded up onto the website now, so if you want to know more specifically about details, it's in here. But this document is essentially like a snapshot in time of what Adelanto looked like in terms of population and housing and a whole bunch of different subject areas, what it looks like right now. And so I'm going to be giving a very quick presentation about what the document said. About what the document says, as I said, it's about a 400-page document that I'm going to condense into 10 minutes. So you're going to get the highlights of the highlights. It's going to go really, really fast. First of all, the project area that we're going to be planning for, we call it the study area. So the report talks about the study area itself, which is both this beige kind of color tan as well as the gold. And so we looked at all of the data and the information for all this area. Then the area where we're going to be planning, where we're actually going to be creating the new community plans and things like that, will be just the area that's in the brown area. So that's called the planning area. So this is the areas that we're talking about tonight. Here's the list of the chapters of the technical document. So you'll see there's we talked about land use and biology and noise and safety, and then a whole series of sustainable development ideas. And I'm going to go through these real quick. First, let's talk about land use easements and ownership. As you can see from this map, the vast majority of the community, which you all know from living here, is vacant. It's not currently being used for any kind of development purposes. It's just open high desert land. And that's shown in the gray. The second most common use in the community is housing or residential, which is shown in the yellow. And you can tell there's little pockets in and around the community. All the other colors that you see through here are the purples are the industrial areas, and then little tiny areas that are in red are commercial uses and food stores and things like that. You do have a series of public facilities being parks and schools, and they're kind of clustered clustered over in this area and a few other clusters. So some of your facilities are already kind of grouped together a little bit, based pretty much on the housing, where your housing is. Your community is actually segmented and segregated significantly by lots of these easements, and they're utility easements mostly. So you can see that they zigzag across the community. However, when we're going to, in this next planning phase, we see these utility easements as being areas of opportunity for open space, for drainage and water aquifer, and replenishing our water aquifer. So now that some things that may be not incredibly pleasant right now to see and look and be around, in the future we looked into using those more effectively in that area more effectively. The community mostly has small, lots of individual property owners. We don't have a lot of large property owners in the sense that a single property owner owns a number of parcels or a lot of area. However, you do have a fairly large area that's owned by governmental uses, and that's what this is kind of showing is these areas, these colors here are showing different governmental agencies and how much and what they own. Like this is the SCLA area, and you can see there are some larger areas that have larger property owners that have a lot. The issue that with this has is though, if you have a lot of smaller property owners, and sometimes it's harder to get a community plan built out in an easy fashion because you have all these different people having to agree and having to go forward. So that will be a little bit of a difficulty or a little bit of a challenge, but it's something that we addressed early on and that we'll plan for it and work through. Talking about population, housing, and the economics. As you can see from this graphic, Adelanto had significant growth. From 1970 to 2010, we had a 1,400% astronomical growth during that period of time. Right now, we have about 31,000 people that live in Adelanto. In 2012, the population went down a little bit from 2010, but not significantly. And the state of California is now thinking your population is actually starting to increase. As you heard, Greg, some of the housing is starting to fill back up, but people have left, and now they're starting to come back. So your population is starting to rise just a little bit, but we're just beginning to see that. In the housing in and of itself, as I said earlier, it represents the small number of mobile homes. Most of the housing is owner occupied, and you have a 14% vacancy rate, which is also a slight decline from what it was from a few years ago. So that your vacancy rate's getting better. Typically, you want in a community that has a very vibrant housing economy, your vacancy rate will be about 4%, 4 or 5%. So this is still high, but we're getting better, and we all know that it's just the national economy that created that just recently. Employment. There are about 4,600 jobs that are provided in the community of Adelanto. Most of them are in the manufacturing sector. The major employers are the school district and Cabo Yachts, as you can see from here. One of the issues here is that we're in a sustainable community. You're going to be looking to providing more jobs. So they're less likely to drive this far. Perhaps they can take transit or walk or bike or something like that. So in our sustainable plan that we'll be planning for, we'll be looking for ways to improve the number of jobs in the community. And it's not just jobs necessarily to have just jobs. You also want to kind of match the jobs with the residents. So you can have a perfect match between the number of jobs and the number of residents, but if it's not the right types of jobs for the education and the skills of the residents, it still won't help you with the sustainable living and the sustainable lifestyle, because then you'll be commuting back and forth and going right past the local jobs. One of the issues in the study we have an economist named Stanley Hoffman, and he did a study, and what he noted is that 31% of Adelanto sales are in retail. You also have other types of sales, in a sense, business to business, and other things that are not, other goods and services that are not subject to sales tax. Why this is an issue for the community is those cities have their money so that they can spend for roads and parks and all those other services come from sales tax. So the community, a city that has a larger sales tax revenue is better off being able to provide better services for the community. So with only 31% of retail sales, that's not terrific. We would like that to be higher. So one of the other things he's noticed is that Adelanto's retail centers are smaller than typical, than what you normally find, and that you only have 2% of the entire high desert, of all the retail, you only have 2% of the high desert mountain. What that means is that you have something that's called leakage. In other words, as you guys probably all know, you don't shop in Adelanto, you shop somewhere else. So your money that you're earning, and rather than being paid into the community to help support goods and services in your community, you're actually things like Victorville and Apple Valley and these other places. So that's something else that we would probably be trying to address in the future, is how to capture some of that retail sales that you are now spending outside, because goods and services just aren't offered right now in the community. Cultural and biological resources. The cultural resource people found that there's a long history of human occupation in this area, that there are about 288 cultural resources sites within that planning area, or within a half mile of that planning area. They traditionally are not mapped because a lot of times it invites people to go and look at it and possibly degrade the resource centers, so that that's why there's not a map here present of them. But you have a number of them in and around the community. And what this means is that as the area will develop, that we'll have to, over a period of time, continue to look to see if there's additional resources that are within the community and that need to be maintained or properly evaluated before the development takes place. Biological resources. This green is showing that there is desert scrub plant community, which supports a significant amount of wildlife. There is potential and habitat for 13 special status plants and wildlife species, which are kind of shown in this map. What this map is showing you is, you can see all the different types of critters there are over here. And critters and critters. And so you can see that all these are areas where they're known to be. That doesn't mean to say that there aren't some down here. It's just that area hasn't been looked at yet. They might not have been developed, or some of the information is older and stuff like that. So we know that there's a potential for significant biological resources. natural resource, what if you are able then to establish a mitigation bank that preserves this area for some of the resources that are there? And if we did something like that, this would tell you if you're looking for to establish a habitat mitigation bank, maybe for the desert corridor, which is what this area is, maybe this area would be better than obviously over here. So that's what this map is kind of telling us. Parks and recreation, right now you have 6 parks within the community, and you have about 35 acres of parkland. Given a typical standard of 3 acres per every 1,000 people, the Adelanto as a whole should have about 96 acres right now. So the community is under what they consider under-parked, meaning that the community should have more parks as it is. Now, parks are not something easy to build because they're not necessarily expensive, but they're just harder to construct and get into the community. However, part of the sustainable planning that we'll be doing, we'll be looking to improve that ratio. But we'll also probably be looking for other ways to doing it, other ways of creating it. Maybe we might have some recreation areas or park areas along some of the utility corridors, as we talked about. Maybe we'll be looking at joint use possibilities to pair schools and parks together so that they're using the same land for some of the areas. So we're going to be looking at a little bit more of a creative way of providing some of the parks to kind of catch up to some of that, make up some of that deficit. Traffic and circulation. This is your existing street system you have right now. You can see it's kind of disjointed there. You can't get from places to places easily. It's certainly your current street system prohibits walking. It's not real transit friendly, and certainly it's not very easy to use by ground. Right now, the way your system works, there's only one intersection that is kind of clogged up or problematic, which is down here at Holly and the 395. These are during the peak hour, morning and afternoon. So your system works well, but it's just not very continuous at this point. You don't have a lot of connectivity. This map is actually showing you, if you built all the roads as they're currently planned, you'll see that there's lots of potential for the connectivity. You have lots of roads that have been planned, that are to be constructed, or as development goes through, or are just anticipated. And if this goes through, you would have a lot of that connectivity that would allow for it much easier for people to bike and to walk and for transit to get around, so that you wouldn't have to take kind of roundabout routes to get to one part of the community to the other. So that would be of the benefit too. Infrastructure, which is water, drainage, wastewater, which is a nice way of saying sewer, and drainage. In your water and wastewater issues, this is a water map, is your existing water map right here. Right now, most of your water is being pumped from the ground. That is not considered to be a sustainable, and you cannot consider to be a sustainable ongoing water source because you already you're pumping about its capacity. So you're going to have to look for other ways to have water generation, or at least other ways to renew that water. And certainly recycling water and recycled water use is going to become more important for the future as well. This is the sewer system or wastewater system. Your wastewater, the community already has some wastewater issues. You have some treatment and capacity issues that are going to have to be addressed in the future. Even without the sustainability plan going in, just regular development would have to address some of these issues because it is currently an ongoing problem right now. This is drainage. This map here shows some of your drainage system, and it actually these are channels and canals, but you also see that it kind of goes with your creek, a little bit of your creeks right now. When it rains, you have a lot of water runoff, and so some of the areas, and this is how it would flow through. Currently, you have shown in the blue area right here. This is your 500-year floodplain area, so that theoretically, once every 500 years, we get enough rain or whatever that would create a flooding in that blue area. And this little tiny red part, this little area, that's actually in the 100-year floodplain. So particularly for the 100-year floodplain, as we go through this plan, we're going to have to consider talking about geology and hazards. The geology, as you can see, these are earthquake faults. And as you all know, California is very susceptible to earthquakes, and we have them all the time. But we just need to pay attention to our design standards, so that our design standards allow for people and buildings to be safe during an earthquake. The San Andreas Fault runs through this area, so there are a number of active faults that could impact this area. This map deals with the hazardous waste. These little tiny dots, it's not hazardous waste, hazardous materials, excuse me. These little tiny dots show that the people that are currently use hazardous materials in or generate hazardous materials or hazardous waste in the community. Some of them are as common as a dry cleaner. A lot of the products that they use are considered hazardous materials. So you don't need to think that this is a horrible super fund or type of site, but a lot of it is your day-to-day activity. You also have things in the industrial area. You'll see down in through here, this is more of the industrial area. You'll see there's things like there's chrome platers and things like that will also have hazardous materials. And why that's an issue for the sustainable planning in the future is that you need to be aware of where these users are and where these materials are, and then plan for it and around it so that you don't have housing coming up close to it or nearby it. So you just need to know where they are to plan for it and work through that. This is a noise map. These colors indicate decibel levels within, if the way the noise study is currently showing is that if you have residential uses along some of these areas, they already are probably impacted by noise higher than what the standards are. And so that if we're going to be looking at creating new housing areas, they need to be sited in a way so that the sound isn't going to be a problem for the community or for the residents. And not only the sound, but also the vibration. A lot of times when you deal with noise, you also deal with vibration from trucks and things like that. So you'd have to be planning for that. How do you build in these areas where there's already noise impacts, and what do you need to do to retrofit some of the areas as well, perhaps? Air quality is the sustainable plan will need to kind of look at how, getting back to siting, how do you have susceptible use of receptors like housing and hospitals and things like that? How do you locate them in a community that has some industrial uses at this point and will continue to have industrial uses? How do you, where do you locate them? For example, sensitive receptors should be about 1,000 feet from distribution centers and from platers. They should be about 5